Hey everybody, today I am super excited because I've been working diligently on how to turn our team building courses that we present in person to an online series. And the secret to all this is to keep it fun and to use a concept called Gameology. And even though I've been dieting a little bit and I may have leaned up a little too much, I think I'll be able to get through the course today. So here I go. Okay. I got to stop the joke just for a little bit because I'm already tired of standing up. So it's around Halloween here, and I don't know. I have skeletons in the office because it's fun, right? I have skeletons in the office, and during COVID, this was terrible. I would have skeletons set up that I took from our Halloween parties, and I put them in the office because I was the only one here for a while, and I'd have little meetings with them. I think I'm going a little bit insane, but we're all out of COVID now. We're getting through Halloween here, and what I really want to talk to you about today is this concept of how do you do team building? And we really believe in this concept called Gameology. And it's what we do in person. And I've been working diligently for you and trying to figure out a way to convert this to an online training platform. And so I think you really got to think about this course as more of a train the trainer. I'm going to give you the fundamentals of what you can do in your own schools, in your own businesses, whatever it is, to build a better team. And I guess I should kind of start off with the premise of why bother building a great team. I think we all kind of get it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but it's really about building trust. And the more trust that you have with your team and your team has with each other, the better you'll have it solving problems, the less turnover you will have. And let me talk about that turnover. There's so much data out there that people leave a job for two reasons: money and for something else. And historically, that something else is a bigger driver. They believe that they're going to get better learning opportunities. They can believe they're going to have a better culture. They believe that they're going to be taken care of more. Whatever all those additional things are, or they're trying to escape a toxic environment, right? And so team building exercises, as frustrating as they can be, as annoying as they can be, are super, super vital. So I want to talk about why this is in my head right now is we have a company retreat coming up, like our own company. And I think the practical examples of the emotions that I'm feeling about this retreat are probably the same as a lot of you out there. And you hear the term retreat and you go, ugh, at least I do. Like, I don't have time for it. I got other things to do. I'm busy just like you're busy. And, but we got to do these retreats. And I remember I was consulting, this was for a big school district, and their leadership team was very dysfunctional, and they were at each other's throats a lot, and there was a lot of animosity there. And I suggested it's time for a retreat. That's what I said. And the soup says, we're not ready for a retreat. These people hate each other. They don't need to be in a room together, for Pete's sakes. And I go, that's exactly the reason why you have to do the retreat. And there's an old adage: it's hard to hate up close, which means that you put people together, you give them activities, and pretty soon that animosity starts to soften over time. And so whether or not it's a hour-long team building exercise, 30-minute team building exercise, all the way up to multiple days, it's hard to find the time to do it, but we all know that the benefits are it creates a better culture, better trust. People will solve problems. They'll feel open and honest about challenging and pushing back and forth because I know that they're going to be their opinions are going to be validated. And it's amazing all the great things that will come from this, even though it's super painful. And in my own experience, we're taking, I think it's 30, 35 people from the company that can make a retreat down to Miami for a couple days. And you see me, I'm already rolling my eyes. And I got to stop it too. Like I've got the same trepidations about doing these things as I bet you do, but I do know that they're needed. And so we're taking the whole team down. It's a celebration for a good year, and it's also a time to rebuild and build culture and to have people kind of break down barriers with other people they may not even really know that well in the company. And so we're going to kind of use our own retreat as an example as we go. And I'm going to give you some other concepts all around this concept of gameology. Now, I do want to get through one fundamental thing first, all right? And the first fundamental thing is what we'll call this peak performance graph. And this has been around. Lots of businesses, companies, nonprofits use this. And so there's other examples of this, but it's all very similar, which is, let me pull this up so you can see it just a little bit. So on the left graph, that is the vertical. It's how well does your team perform, right? So how great do they do? And you see at the top of the graph here, you got peak performance, which kind of makes sense. The higher up you go, the more of whatever you want you're getting. So peak performance is way up here. But at the bottom, you have stress, anxiety. And as you approach the epicenter on the horizontal axis, you see that as stress increases, performance will dip. But also, what all the theories are out there is that if somebody is no stress and they're very calm and they're super chilled out and they're always relaxed, typically they're inactive. They're bored and they don't perform as well. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this in your own life, but have you had a tendency to find that when you're busy, you get more done? But if you only have one thing to do on a weekend, sometimes you don't even get that one thing done. But if you got like 15 things to get done, you'll bang out 15. But if you got 30 to do, just as an example, you'll get panic and anxiety and burnout and stress overload, right? It's too stressful. So there's a fine medium in here, which is some stress is good stress, but not when it's so much stress and so much pressure that it actually creates panic, anxiety, and burnout, right? So you've got to find with your teams this optimal point, which is really focused. So when we were talking about team building, you as a trainer, the person helping to build the team, in whatever role you're in, by the way, in the military, it would be a lot of times it'd be the junior officer that had to do like team building exercises, even for the higher ranks. And, cause it's a bad job. Like nobody wants to be in charge of a group project, right? But it's whatever role you have. If your job is to build like a team building exercise, well, the question is how stressful do you make it? Which is really how hard do you make it? How long does it last? And who's involved and all this stuff. So you've got to really factor this in. But if you make it too easy, if you make any of the team building exercises too soft and too boring and too lecture, it's going to be inactive. It's going to be boring. You're not causing any level of strain or stress and pressure. What pressure creates diamonds, right? Diamonds. So you get a lump of coal, you pressure over millions of years and you got a diamond. That's the same, I believe, for people. A little bit of pressure goes a long way to creating better teams and better individuals. Learning hurts. So you got to create some level of pressure, but not so much so that you're starting to break people. And you got to look at the individual team. So I think the first big assessment right now is look at your team and what they can tolerate. So we talked about this team of they were all at each other's throats. Nobody really liked each other. I don't know. I think what we ended up finding out is a lot of them were in this exhaustion state. Some of them were even burned out and broken down. And what we need to do is kind of pull them back to being motivated, right? We needed to pull them over here. And so we couldn't go really, really hard with certain games. And so we just needed to be aware that we wanted some games, some competition, but we couldn't go too far. And so that's just a framework to keep in mind as you're starting to pick what are the activities you're going to do for your team building. So keep this chart in mind and really reflect upon your group. Now, I'll say this, that I was like really funny pictures to, keep me framed up here, which is, I know we all believe this, but when you mention team building to anyone, you're going to get more like this. I don't want to tell you about it. It's terrible. And it's going to drive me insane. It's going to make me stressed out. So maybe you don't even call it team building. Right? So you got this certain degree of anxiety and stress just by mentioning the word team building exercises. Oh God, they're going to have somebody come in and talk about our feelings, and we're going to have to say what kind of vegetable we'd be if we were a vegetable. And it creates a certain amount of tension. So maybe it's culture building. Maybe it's we're going to get together and go through some exercises. You just kind of tap down the stress leading up to it. And so for our retreat, for instance, I know we're going to have a certain amount of gameology attached to it, but we're also having a lot of break time. We're having a lot of free time intermixed in this. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, we don't have any time to do all this stuff. But even if you take it a microcosm, you have an hour long to do it. Maybe you don't take the whole hour. All right? Maybe you don't take the entire hour just to do games and beat up people. Maybe you have a little pre and post casual time mixed in there. So if it's an hour, if it's 4 days, think about, doing a little bit of breakout sessions, a little bit of time before in and out of your Gameology concepts, your exercises that people can decompress. So just kind of keep that in mind, because team building creates a certain level of stress, doesn't it? Just by saying the words. And we got to make it fun. We got to be goofy. So it's hard. So I was thinking about all this different stuff. I just Googled. Don't for God's sakes, I'm not going to read these slides. And so I get my background from the military, that, by the way, uses a ton of games to practice what you're going to perform. And then, in law school, we do a lot of moot court competitions, a lot of trials, a lot of practice, and it can be fun. It can be invigorating and a little stressful. And then I'm a super geek. And then we get into the cognitive stuff in psychology, right? And for those of you that don't know my background, I'm a mega nerd in all this stuff. I love building teams. I love building culture. I love getting into the science and the cognitive biases that we have that stop us from overcoming those biases. So you're going to hear a lot of this. But there are tons of games, and there's tons of people that talk about, there are 4 main ways to do team building exercises, team building activities outside. And you can just Google them, and it's completely overwhelming. But let's just talk about the fundamentals that you need to do as the coach, all right, when you're building a team. Is first off, and this, once again, goes right back to our earlier pressure graph, right? Which is, if they're too easy, they don't have any impact to build a team. And in order to build trust, and that's what you want your teammates to trust each other at some level. You really, that's what you need, and that's what starts to decrease anxiety. I mean, if you trust somebody and you know that person loves you and is going to be there for you, you'll tolerate a lot more criticism and corrective action because you know that they have your best intent in mind. Well, that's true of every individual. Somebody that you don't like, you don't want to hear from, you don't want to work with. Definitely don't want to be on a group project with them. So when you're trying to build a better team, the activities have got to be hard enough to create some level of stress and pressure. And you'll see this a lot in some corporations and groups go to like confidence courses where they're outdoors and there's some sort of physical challenge associated with it. But this can turn on you too, because some level of stress is good. But let me tell you a story about bad stress. We was part of a leadership group. It was a bunch of people that came together, different backgrounds and males and females and races and all that stuff. It was very eclectic. It was cool. And we went to a confidence building course. And there were a few of us that were maybe a little bit more of adrenaline junkies than other people. I mean, we jumped out of planes. We've, done rappelling before. And that stuff's just kind of fun at this point to us. But to some people, oh my goodness, that can cause an extreme amount of stress, like so much bad stress. It can, if you think about it, it could like making somebody rappel that is scared to death of heights, panic, anxiety, even anger at the program, and it can defeat the entire purpose. So one of the things that I noticed the instructor that was doing, who was not, I got to say it, they weren't highly qualified. It was clearly they had other jobs and they just hired to moderate our group. And we were all adults. Everyone was over the age probably of 35. I mean, people had done things that had a life history in this. And the person that was pushing us to was just all over everyone that they had to repel. Just all over it. And it was actually another gentleman on the team that had a lot of experience doing this. And he's like, hey man, I think he used the word, you're causing a lot of anxiety right now. And it was our group. This person was a moderator for 3 days. We were together for an entire year. And he was like, hey, our group's pretty tight. We're strong. We came here to build a better team. He was really good at this now that I think about it. A guy named Nick. And he was like, hey, I'm not interested in causing anxiety on these people that are terrified of heights. I think we need to figure out some other exercises that will make them feel challenged and purposeful, but maybe we come back to this in a day or so. And I think we need to show a lot more support of them. And ultimately, Nick got his way and everybody went off the little rappelling tower. It was 32 feet. And which is, if you've done a lot of rappelling, it's not that tall, but it's scary. And he got everybody to perform and everybody to, go down. And he did it. And God bless, everybody had more trust for Nick after that. He didn't cause anxiety and frustration. What he did is he really worked on getting everyone motivated to do it. And he didn't push so hard that he caused this degree of stress. So when you're doing these team building exercises, once again, in this is kind of our 101 course on team building, is I need you to really, really reflect upon the people that you're doing, your training team that you're doing. And there was an episode of The Office that just popped in my head where Michael Scott dude or whatever, if you don't watch it, he's kind of the character was kind of a nutty manager, and he was trying to get people that were overweight on top of a flimsy table, and he was trying to push them, and like, that's not cool, man. That's not good stress. That's bad stress, right? There's other ways to do it. So I just want you to be very empathetic here. And before you start to roll out games that you find on the line, you can find a million games online. Why don't you check with a couple people on your team? Make sure it's the right for yours, but does it create some pressure, but not too much? And I know I'm spending a lot of time on that because I've just seen so many times where the exercises are so extreme because the person putting them together is an adrenaline junkie and they don't recognize the fact that people are different. And so if you're an adrenaline junkie, ask somebody that's not about your game. If you're kind of a docile person that doesn't like that, you ought to ask people to make the games a little bit more challenging because you might not make them quite as hard as they should be, right? So just be reflective upon that as you're starting to build these games out. And I think about this particular game here. It's what it boils down to is there's supposed to be I don't think this game is being done right. The person's supposed to be blindfolded, and people are supposed to talk them through navigating a little thing with glasses full of water where they don't knock the water over with their feet. And you're supposed to say, like, slide your foot over 6 inches to the north, to the left, to the right. And it really teaches you how poorly we as humans communicate with each other, right? Because you're like, move your foot up. Oh, wait, I mean, up for you is to the left the way you're facing. Oh, no, I can't say it. And it just shows how poor of communicators we are, and it's supposed to be fun and Googling. And that's a great team building exercise. So somebody came up with this, and they put little borders around it, and it's fun. And so let's talk a little bit about why games are so important. Well, Gameology, and I'm going to kind of back up to that, is it's light. It's safe. People are used to playing games, especially in the United States. We play Monopoly and board games and, maybe competitive sports your whole life. And some people are certainly more competitive than others. But games teach you that losing doesn't make you a loser. They make you lost and you pick yourself back up, and it can teach you some level of resiliency. And it also can make people relax and realize that it's a safe environment. And then you're actually teaching them lessons at the same time. If you try to explain to somebody in a lesson, in a lecture type series, that we as human beings do not communicate well, and somebody will say something to person A and then say something to person B, and it'll be different than what person A said to B, that said to C, that said to D. People are like, okay, but instead you do the grapevine game, where one person whispers in one person's ear and it gets passed around all the way around through 20 or 30 people. And I bet you all have done this. If you haven't, you should. And the question is, what was a story at the end versus what was a story that started with? And it's always different. But you learn that through a little game, through a little exercise and activity. You don't learn that from somebody going, people are poor communicators. Well, yeah, but the grapevine game makes it real. This particular game, I don't know what the name of it is, teaches people how they will overtalk and interrupt people and make it confusing to the person they're trying to navigate through. And teach them that they're poor communicators and they need to work on it. So games create this safe environment to explore and experiment and to build trust. And here's the really other weird thing about games. There was a study that was done, and this has been done multiple times, so I'm kind of summarizing multiple studies, where people walk in the room. I've done this before, by the way. And you walk in and you say, I'd like you to fill out this short psychological questionnaire and background sheet. And they fill it out. And then you read it and you say, okay, person A, B, and C, you guys are over there because you're the most similar. Person D, E, F, you're the most similar to each other, so you go over there. And you keep splitting up based on this psychological data. And those people feel very, very connected with these strangers before the event because they are told they have something in common. The trick is, it's just random. You just put people together randomly. And what you're trying to show is people get very uniform to their particular group. They get very protective over the people, even though they weren't their people 10 minutes ago, but they're their people now that they've been assigned to a group. And one of the ways that we do it in team building exercises when I'm out is like we'll put people into groups and I'll say, pick a team name. Something about a team name makes you feel like you're on a team. And then you start to want to beat other teams. Competition will make people better. It just does. As long as competition will make people better, but our goal here is to build better teams and better culture, so you can't alienate people. So you've got to make it fun and light, and that's what games do, instead of like some big sports match or war or something like that, right? So in this kind of intro series, I'm going to break out some sections of games, and I've got some things in the deck that's attached here about benefits of Gameology that you can read on your own, but it does build closer teams, and it's fun. Now, some of the rules are, I'm going to highlight a couple of the rules for good gameplay, which is, I'm going to reiterate for communication's sake, that you need to think about your targets and where they are. Are they ready for highly complex, highly competitive games, or do you need to be a little softer? Are they in good spot together? Are they don't know each other? Are they strangers? Or are they in a bad spot? All things for you to just intellectually like explore. The other rules are you need the games and the competitives to be somewhere between 3 to 8 people. If you make big teams against, like, okay, I need 12 people to go solve this puzzle. You could see that as a little, team building exercise. I need whoever solves the puzzles the fastest. I'm going to split you up into 3 groups. Wins. Yay. And well, let me get into this puzzle game a little bit. Let me give you a better example. So one way that we do it is we'll have blocks. We'll bring a bunch of blocks with us. And you've got to build a duplicate shape like that's behind a wall that only one person can see. And so each team sends one person, and they can put one block on their game board that mimics the hidden game board, and they're trying to match the hidden game board. And so you give them 10 minutes to do it, and they keep running back and forth, and putting their blocks down. Well, if it's more than 8 people can hide. There's extra people, person 9, 10, 11, 12, and they don't really participate as much. And when you're doing group discussions, if you have a group discussion with more than 8 people don't engage and they'll hide. And that's not what you want for team building exercises. So the smaller the group, the more interactive it will be, and the closer that unit and team will become. And one of the reasons why we really press upon smaller group interactive training is because it builds a stronger camaraderie and stronger team. So when you think about this, let's assume you have 10 people that you're going to put through a team building exercise, 10 teachers, whatever it is, and split them up into 2 or 3 groups, 5 and 5, right? And even better would be 4, 8, 9, 10. Well, you can't do that because math. I didn't go to math school, but groups of 3 or 4 would be preferable. If you've got 100 people, don't split them up into groups of 10 because 10 is too many. You can do it in a pinch. I'm just giving you best practices. It's better to split all those groups up into groups of 8 because they'll have more exchange, more interaction. And then the next thing you do when you're breaking people up into groups before you start the activities is, who do you put together? Is it random? Is it strangers? Is it people in the same group that you want to learn to benefit together? Or do you want them meeting people outside of their departments? Do you put quiet people with quiet people? Loud people with loud people? Or do you mix them up? I don't know what the right answer is in every case. I've done it so many different ways, and I like to look at the groups individually and find out what the objectives are. But if you're trying to teach the quiet people to speak up, you can't put quiet people with loud people because they'll just kind of let it happen, right? And if you're trying to teach the loud people to be quiet and listen more, do a game that puts a muzzle on them. You could do anytime that person talks, minus points. You've got to arrange these games that get the benefit that you're trying to achieve. I know I'm getting thick, and as we go through this series together, we'll try to break these things out more and more. It still is really hard to teach all this online versus in person, but I really want you to get the flavor of what you're trying to achieve here. So I like to put sometimes quiet people with quiet people. And then once they start to branch out and get more lively, then we kind of intermix and rearrange the group some. so that we don't become too territorial in those individual groups. I like to put managers with managers, leaders with leaders, so that they can learn to interact and not just be in charge of in particular group, because we're trying to build teams. And you just think about what you want. There's no wrong answer. I just want you to be very deliberate on how you stage these games, right? So you can kind of look at all the different rules here, and if you're making games, you can kind of let these be a relative guideline other than some of the stuff I'm talking about. So over the next few weeks and the new courses, whenever you get to them, I guess, is we're going to cover 4 particular game types, and it's almost a progression. Really, is the lowest, the easiest, the simplest games are these icebreaker type games, which I cannot stand. I'm not the guy. Oh my God, I got partners here and other instructors here that they really believe in icebreakers. I think that they're needed, especially if there are strangers and they don't know each other. I just really like the more complex games more. And the icebreakers, it gets you started, but I don't think the icebreakers really build trust, because you're not solving or doing anything as a group. You're just talking about yourself. So you can do the icebreakers. Depending on the amount of time you have, I would encourage you to get through it faster. And we'll talk about icebreakers and some different ways to do icebreakers. Then you've got problem-solving games, competitive games, like where there's really competition on the line, prizes. That's kind of a next level. Problem-solving is cool, competition. And then if they're really an advanced group, highly joined team, it's time to really start getting into cognitive brain games, all right? And so I just labeled out some examples, but there's lots of them out there. It's, well, let me tell you about one icebreaker game that I do like to use, and it's called the Time Traveler game. And I'm going to walk you through this so that you can use this. So if people I like this game with people that get very entrenched in their own thoughts and their own beliefs. They're more stubborn minded. And so if I'm going to go and do some training, I like, tell me about the people, tell me about some of the issues you're having. And if I hear they're just also stubborn, they're not open to hearing other people's problems. And anytime you correct them, they get upset. Oh, time for the Time Traveler game, right? So the Time Traveler game is a game. We say, all right, I'll give everyone 1 minute to write down the one single inorganic item that you would take to 400 years in the past. You're going to take this object with you, and it's supposed to help you. You will have clothes of the era, so you don't have to pick clothes. You'll be dressed and you'll have clothes. But that's it. And you can take one thing with you, and then we're going to see whoever wins, who has the best item. And they have 1 minute, and they'll think about it. And historically, I've seen the same things written over again. I will take a gun. I will take matches. I will take filtered water. They'll come up with something. But it doesn't matter what they pick. Here's the trick. You need to let people that are not them on other teams talk about why that item's bad. All right? And people will get their feathers in a ruffle. And if they can't think of a reason why the object is terrible, you just make up some things. And I always love if you take that item back, you take a weapon back. People pick weapons a lot, like defensive, I guess. I go, well, you forgot to bring bullets. So it's nothing more than a paperweight. So it doesn't work for you. All right. And then somebody will be like, okay, I want to bring a fire starter. Oh, okay, fire starter. That's cool, so you can have heat. All right. People see you use the fire starter, they think you're a witch, and they burn you at the stake. I always like to go with they're going to burn you at the stake and witch, and they see you as magical and all this stuff. The basic key to the Time Traveler game is you destroy every idea people have. And then what happens magically is people get defensive about their idea. And then you go, hey guys, stop. You're getting upset. You're getting bugged that your idea is not the best idea. And you say, it's a game. I am not sending you to 400 years in the past. I don't have a time machine. You're not going anywhere. Why are you getting so punchy about this? And they all go, oh man. I go, that's the whole point. The whole point is they're just ideas. This particular thing that you said, it's a good idea, it's a bad idea, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to get you all to break down and realize not to be so fixed in the particular idea you have, and be open to the fact that you could be wrong. And it's just for fun. Nobody's taking you to the past. And typically that gets people to soften up a little bit on their innate stubbornness, which we probably all have. So And then there are a lot more at icebreaker games. I would just encourage you, if you're going to do an icebreaker game, to kind of make it fast so you can get into the meat of things, depending on the time you have. All right, so I want to go through some problem-solving games. I'm going to get more entrenched in future courses on each one of these, but I just want to give you a quick highlight right now. It's I'm going to save this game for a live session. I really, the 248 is a cognitive bias game, but it's a good icebreaker in there. So anyway, let's go to the next series of games. I want to give you 2 examples of games that we play so you can visualize what's coming up. One is the decision matrix game. It's a matrix, and it's to help people do like problem solving, right? And certainly look, if you want to have people put together a puzzle, if you want to have people do an escape room, those are all great problem-solving games too. And so we're kind of talking about this next level, right, of scavenger hunts. Oh, at our retreat, I hope the team doesn't watch this before they go on their retreat, but we're going to do scavenger hunts. And we're going to mix the people up so that they are on scavenger hunts with people they do not know. And we're going to put potential leaders with potential leaders. We're going to put new people with new people, or people they don't know. We're going to put new people with no people that they don't know. And we're going to put high-level leaders that know each other in kind of a reserved spot so they don't dominate the scavenger hunts. And leaders will pop up. People will pop up and they'll do things. And it's going to be like multiple hours. I think it's going to be like 24 hours of scavenger hunts. And there's no way to win. It's like we're going to give points and everything like that. But it's just about them being together, and we'll get prizes out, and we'll have, the worst scavenger hunts and the best scavenger hunt so that we can all come together. And then one thing that we will do during the scavenger hunt process is we're going to mix the teams up. Why? So they get too fixated on their one little cohort and they get to meet other people and build camaraderie with them. Because it's not about winning the scavenger hunt. It's about building a culture and building a better team. And it is funny how frazzled people will get when we switch the teams up. Well, that's the whole point, is to build teammanship. And so when you're building out your game, really think about it. It's not to make that cohort, that little group, win and make them feel successful. It's to build a better culture, and they have got to explore doing things with other people. So I want to give you 1 or 2 games on the problem solving. So one game that I do like, that I don't see utilized enough in the world, are decision matrix games. And what decision matrix games do is they make people have an opinion. Do you have a team that just won't speak up? They just don't want to have an opinion? Sure you do, right? You have people that are scared to death to say what they think because they don't want to be judged and they don't want to be torn down. So this decision-making game is a game you can play in like 30 or 40 minutes anytime, and it's a secret team-building exercise. It's secret. They don't know that they're building a better team. They don't know that they're learning. You don't have all that anxiety and fear. And so when you look at our graph, right, is they don't know that it's a team building exercise. It seems motivating. It just seems fun. So here's one particular one that I got to do. It was just goofy and it was fun. Is that a friend of mine has a bunch of burger restaurants, and they were switching the meat. This is a very big deal in restaurants, by the way. They were switching their meat vendor, and the meat vendor, like, fat ratio in the meat compared to marbling of the meat, is it consistent? And all this stuff is very, very important to restaurants. I didn't know about any of this stuff. And they said, "Hey, Brian, like, you love to eat our hamburgers, and would you like go and like tell us what you think of the new burger?" And I was like, "No, unless I can do it as a team building exercise." And they go, "Do tell." And I go, "Well, I'd like to bring a few people with my company over, and what I'd like is I'd like every burger you got on the menu with the old meat, and every burger you got with the new meat, and we're going to mix it up. And then we're going to rank the burgers. And everybody's got to have an opinion. And everybody's going to give it a number value. And this is what's really key to this decision-making game, this ranking matrix, is it's a number and it's a value, right? And so the company, I think this is fun, so we're going to keep talking about it, is the company had said, look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there were 6 things that they thought were important. What was the quality? How safe was it? They don't want to get people to get salmonella and all this. How, buying local. One was local, one was not local. What's the cost? What's the impact to employees because they love the current vendor. The current vendor had been with them for like 25 years. They just outgrown the vendor's capacity to bring meat. And so the impact to employees is like they're getting rid of Johnny, this vendor they've had. And then what's the consistency of the product? Like, is it going to be the same at every one of their restaurants, which was really important. And it didn't matter what the things are, but the point is that everyone had to write a number down. And it was hard. Everybody had to put a number down, and they didn't want to do it. I've done this ranking matrix game with so many different groups, and it doesn't matter whether or not you're the leader or whether or not you're an entry-level team member. People do not want to put a number down. They're like, what do you think of the quality? Well, it was good. No, I didn't ask you if it was good. I need a number, 1 through 10. It teaches them they've got to put something down concrete. And then where the magic happens is you take everybody's numbers and you form an average. So their number was just one piece of it. And you congratulate them for finally putting a number down. I mean, I used to do this with CEO groups when I was speaking, and they would just not want to they wouldn't want to put a number down. It was almost comical to me. And so what this game will teach is by ranking something. All right, it's how important is the quality? How did the burger taste? I really liked it. I didn't ask you if you really liked it. I asked you what a number was. So you put the number down, and then you let them know that it's not a big deal. It's just a game. It's just fun. You put numbers down. You're going to take the average anyway. So, and it lets them have a dialogue and a debate, and then you can let them go back and change their numbers based on other people's opinions, which kind of tap down that stubbornness. And then ultimately you come up with a group number by, if you have 10 people, you take, you add up all their numbers and divide it by 10, and that's the average. And it's not really that complex. And this is really the start of this decision-making matrix, is really the start of competitive intelligence, which is what competitive intelligence is, a very thick concept where you weigh and balance all this math and all this data, and you put all these things in kind of a gameology concept. Now there's fast computers that do it, and they'll kind of help you pick your course and direction, things like that. Nobody has the money to do this unless you're like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or something. So the ranking matrix gives that small group collaborative effort where they rank, they put their numbers down, they take an average of it. So everybody is a part of the solution. Everybody's a part of the win, and nobody's penalized for picking the wrong answer, which unfortunately happens too much. And they learn how to make decisions, which is super dope. It's super cool. So one other game, and this is a much more, we call it strategic war games. And yeah, I know the word war's in it. This is not for the faint of heart. These kind of games are not for your entry-level people. Once again, we have it in stages, right? The war games are way up here. Problem-solving games, fun, escape rooms, puzzles. They build trust with teams that need to learn how to problem solve together. Teams that want to crush it. Highly tough situations, you've got to use bigger, more competitive games to still build levels of trust with them, right? So you get into some level of war games, and war games, you can call it business games, whatever it is. It's the names. Some people I've heard not many people, the name bothers me. Well, it's just a name. So, but here's the trick: is that let's use keeping students in your school, which is a tough thing that's going on around the nation, because public schools have competition. You have competition with charter schools and private schools and home schools and virtual schools now, and there's competition, even maybe neighboring districts with open enrollment. And so one of the war games that we'll do with teams that are ready for it, right, after we've really analyzed and looked at them, is we go, okay, your team is going to be the student recruitment team for the school district that you live in. Your team is going to be a charter school. The judges over here, which maybe that's the leadership, because sometimes you don't want them to be in the game, or some other third team, is you get to be the parents, the judges. And you're going to pick which one you want to go with. And so one team will present, here's what our awesome school is going to do to keep our students, and here is what is, and then the competition is going to present, and then what's going to happen is the parents are going to pick, and they're going to say why they pick it. We picked this school because they offer this, this, and this. We picked the charter school because they seem to be more focused on our child safety. Okay, walk us through that. Then you stop. And this is where the real magic happens. Both teams got to present. So maybe give them 20 or 30 minutes to pick out how they would keep their students. And they outline it and they present it. Well, then you scramble the teams up. Once again, they're building trust with another group. And you say, you just learned something in this game. You learned what the parents care about. Now, take that back to the drawing board. Take the other team's ideas. Those teams are gone. Now you have a new team. Pick a cool team name, builds camaraderie, and represent to those same parents what you would do now. And let's see if they make a decision. And you could do 2 or 3 rounds of this. We call it, rounds or battles. And what you're going to end up with is, first off, is fun. It's fun to try to beat another team. It's competitive. And Americans love competition, right? So you want to get into that competitive role and don't make it overly competitive. And then you do a round, you get to go back and learn, and then you get to do another round. And we found that like doing this 3 times on one particular topic is really the sweet spot to cause just the right amount of focused and motivation without being too fatiguing. If you go 4, 5, 6 rounds where you just keep doing the same topic, people start to get exhausted and they start to get worn out a little bit. And so, but 3 rounds, and then whatever the last round was, you go, okay, this is our plan. This is a great idea that I want all the schools to go back and implement. You guys just taught each other how to rock and roll, be awesome in a competitive environment, and it was super fun, right? And so the war games and even these like the challenges are cute. They're cool, and they build camaraderie, but it's not the same thing as learning to do better what you do for a living, right? And that's where the war games and the decision-making matrix will make what you do a little bit more concrete. It turns the games into purposeful activities that you can utilize back in your schools. And I know it gets a little thick, all this stuff. And then, which I'm not going to get into today, is the cognitive games. The cognitive games. And the cognitive games are really trying to break down bias, which we all have. And these are just some charts that I put in your slide deck to let you know. And it's fun to read these, the different type of biases that exist out there that all human beings have at some level, or it's a spectrum really, where you try to break those down so the team can better perform. And if the games are done correctly, it builds better trust and better camaraderie. So the last thing that I'm going to hit right now is the concept of role playing. So let me see if I can. I want to back this up just a little bit on this thing. I'm not going to play this whole video for you. Sorry, I'm just not going to do it. Here we go.
I'm going to try to find out where Joshua is. What bus is Joshua from?
Run something into school that was not allowed.
How do you know it was little Robert?
You had it on him.
The detective?
So this video is it's on our website. I'm not going to get into it, but the point is I want you to see these people arguing with each other. These are people that came together from different schools. I can't remember what district this is. It's North County. This would have been in Florida. This would have been in Miami, I think. This one was not. This one was, I think, in New Orleans. But the point is that we were doing a customer service course. And customer service, everybody needs to work on that. Everybody, needs to treat their families and their parents as customers. But of course, if you read my book, which so many of you have not done yet, I didn't say that the parents are always right. I didn't say the customer is always right. But we need to learn how to deal with those controversial situations. So really what we do is we teach you the tools, and this is online now too, by the way, how to deal with difficult people. And we practice. And the role playing that you see here is the practice session. And you look at this woman. I didn't even mean to pause it here. Look, she's laughing. They're smiling. They're happy. Nobody wants to role play. Nobody wants to role play initially. I don't want to get up. Just tell me the information that you want and let me leave, please. Well, and I know that's easy, but it doesn't make you better. And you don't build any kind of teammanship. Customer service training in of itself does nothing to build a better team. But customer service training with role-playing and interactive exercises that the teams do together is magical. Look at these people. They're laughing. They're having fun. They challenge each other. And you can go watch the role-playing videos that I gave on how to do role-playing effectively. But if you make people role-play, it's painful. They don't want to do it. They'll get better and they'll have more joy in their lives. Because you're practicing tough situations in a nice, safe environment. And so really in this particular situation right here is one person acts as an upset parent, like a real situation they have faced. And then the other one gets to act as a school representative. And then the group kind of gives them some tips to do better. And then they try it again and they try it again and they try it again until they get better at it and more comfortable dealing with those situations and get a better outcome. And that's the entire basis of our customer service training is highly interactive with Gameology. And so I'll kind of close it here. Is I want you to think when you're building a better team, you don't have to call it team building, by the way. Our customer service training is very team buildery. Is that a word? Buildery? It's not. Let's just pretend it is. It builds better teams, but they don't know it. But you've got to get people to interact and work together in group environments, which are painful. And I got to take my medicine. I got to take my medicine also and realize that our retreat that we have coming up is a grand opportunity to build a better culture, a better team. Even though I just want to go ride my bike and I want to take a nap and maybe, watch a movie or something on the iPad. I don't know, but I do know it's needed. And so I want you to reflect upon the fact that when people say, we don't have time, we don't need it, you do. Because to train new employees, new staff, new faculty, takes you a lot more time than trying to cultivate the ones you've got. And I think that that's really the key to team building. And as we explore this topic in a lot more nuance, I'm going to work games. I'm going to do some live games and film it so you can see it in action. A matter of fact, some of the school districts we have coming up to do professional development training, I'm going to get permission from them to film it like this. And so you can see those games and you can take them back and you can do them yourself. And if you've got questions, email me. This subject is very personal to me. I want you to build better cultures. I want people to have more happiness in their lives. Even my own team here. Hey, thanks everybody. Bye.